Another photo that, of course, tell 1,000 words, and it's a picture in the essay, Allah the Father, the founder of the nation of gods and earth, the five percenters, is one of Azreal. And Azreal, of course, was a pioneer in the nation, holding great significance and some of his accomplishments. One, I guess you could say, is the most primary, is that he was the first Caucasian taught by Allah in the nation. And he was taught by Allah in Manawa in 1966. And I was introduced to him by the Father when I went to see Allah in Manawa. I think it was about 10 of us on this day. If I'm not mistaken, it should have been August 20th, 1966. And Allah had told us that he had taught a Caucasian. And his name was Azreal. And when he taught him, he did the damnedest thing. And that was to learn the student enrollment in 10 minutes. Word of mouth, because Allah didn't write no lessons down. All the lessons that he taught us was out of his mouth. Word of mouth. So he taught Azreal the same way he taught us. Word of mouth. And Azreal got the questions and answers in 10 minutes. And I don't know the exact process. Allah was spitting it out, giving it to him, and he was taking it in just as quick and repeating it, quoting it, and memorizing it and quoting it and repeating it just as quick as the Father gave it to him. And that process, as Allah told me, took 10 minutes. And while he had introduced us to Azreal at this time, the first time I even heard of him, Azreal was outside of the window of the office of Allah. The government that gave Allah an office, he was getting so many visitors from the youth. And the thing about it is that we was underage. We was minors, to say underage. That we didn't have no draft cards, which you had to be 18 and older, so you couldn't function as an adult. And you couldn't get into places unless you was an adult. But we was minors. I was knowledge guard at that time, and the brother that led us up there, along with myself, was knowledge culture. That was God Supreme. His name was Caucasian at the time. But at any rate, we was in the office of Allah, and the Father was in a big throne-like chair. You know, it was antique, but it was like a king's chair. And they had 7 chairs around. 10 of us went, but 3 didn't get in and 7 got in. So they had 7 chairs, and all of them was like throne type chairs as well. And he told us about Azreal, and Azreal was out the window, outside of the window. And the window had bars on it. But when he called Azreal's name, Azreal started jumping up in the window so we could see his face. And he jumped about 3 or 4 times. And we seen the Caucasian face. I can see it now because I got that impression of him. And the Father used to call him Jumping Jack Swift. And they made a picture of it, espionage picture. But Azreal used to love the fact that the Father gave him that name, Jumping Jack. And Azreal used to do a little thing. When he tell people that the Father gave him that name, he would jump up in the air and spin all around and say, yeah, Jumping Jack. But anyway, Azreal distinguished himself as being the first Caucasian, and not only being the first Caucasian, but that's one of the first ones that the Father gave him a unique name, Azreal, that he's as real in his application of truth as the original man. So he is a righteous man because he's gonna live righteously and he's gonna do things that is righteous. Although he was a Caucasian, they really didn't know how to receive him. You know, some of them brothers was still new in knowledge, and in their mind, we hated the white man. But Allah was teaching us that the first emotion is love, and you had the love to destroy unrighteousness, and you couldn't hate because hate was a stumbling block in the path for success. So if you wanted to be successful, you had to eliminate hate. So we couldn't hate the white man. We had to love and destroying unrighteousness and devilishment, no matter where it was manifested and who it was manifested in, because the first devil was Yaku, a renewed black man. born 20 miles outside the holy city of Mecca. So we had that understanding as the Lord taught us. So he told us that we had to teach all the human families of the planet Earth. And the Caucasian was also a member of the human family. And not only that, what brought it home is that the Caucasian was the youngest of the 6 divisional families of the planet Earth. So he was the baby, and if anything, he was our son, my son, and he came from us. So we had to be responsible for him. Maybe not be responsible for the devilishment he did, but we had to be responsible for the life that was given him. And we had given him that chance to clean himself up and come amongst us and do trading. And we had to give him that chance. And we gave him that chance. And if he can clean himself up and come amongst us and do trading, then he'd be allowed to live, and we wouldn't kill him as we would the other devils, that is, who has not gone under that study. And the kill was to keep him away from us. You know, we didn't want to know of his filthy affairs and all the devilishment that he was doing in those filthy affairs, and we wanted no part of him. So we killed his ambitions. That's what we talked about, killing. So, but we brought Azreal in, and the brothers that rejected that, seen the ones who understood the responsibility of a civilized person and teaching all the human families of the planet, of which he was a member of, realized that he wasn't no threat, that they didn't have to live off of their insecurities, thinking that he was a threat, and do their duty. And that was to teach civilization to others, you know, who were savage, okay? And we also emphasized, as the father had emphasized, the understanding culture, that if we understood the culture, understanding our way of life, which was the culture of our God, then God made all things possible, that we could even reform a devil. But we had decided not to graft them back. That's how you bring them back home. So we just decided not to graft them back, so we wasn't in the process of reforming them. So we decided to take them off the planet Earth. In that regard, by teaching them and holding them up under the sword to do righteousness. So if we taught a man and he became a righteous man as Azreal, then we was murdering the devil. And in that regard, the father has said Azreal meant the death angel. And he was a death angel because he would be at the gate of heaven, but the last gate of hell, stopping any weak and wicked person from getting into the heaven of Allah's happiness. And that's where Azreal came in, and that's where we really understood the significance. And Azreal was deaf on people that was unrighteous. I don't care what complexion you was, if you was unrighteous, Azreal, that's where he really shined. He would dig it out and dig in your ass, and we would back him because he was right. And when he manifested in righteousness, and we was about righteousness, so we stood with him on those bases. And that's character, you know. And he had that character, he had that integrity, that he loved Allah just as much as we loved Allah, and he loved pleasing Allah, and he know that the most pleasure you could bring to Allah is to simply be righteous. You know, you didn't have to get on a father's jock or anything of that nature. All you had to do was be righteous, just and true, and have no unrighteousness in you. And Allah loved you. You know, black, brown, yellow, Caucasian, it didn't make no difference. You was just and true, and you was righteous and didn't have no unrighteousness in you. Allah loved you, and you pleased him. And Azreal pleased Allah, and Allah loved him. You know, and brothers began to see that, and then they began to act upon it because they wanted to please Allah, and they wanted to equalize that magnetic of being righteous. And then they began to accept Azreal, you know, and that's how it grew. And no matter where he went, what he did, he always came back here. This was his home. And Azreal had a very unique position in the nation as a 5%er. He was swift, and all he wanted to do was be accepted. And he knew he had to go through some serious trials, even amongst the gods and the earth, or as we were saying, the brothers and the sisters, and then with his own people. And that's what Allah really taught him, to go back and teach your people. And he went back home in Jersey where he's living. He was born and raised in New York, but he went back to Jersey where he's living with his family, where they moved, and he tried to teach him. And they really rejected him. Really made him feel like an outcast.
His family rejected him.
The family rejected him. You know, even so much that even when he returned home, they wouldn't even let us know that he would return home, and they know how much we meant to him. The only ones they told was Michael Muhammad Knight, and then he later told us that Azreal went home, and we couldn't give him a proper send-off, you know, in our way, you know, which he was worthy of it, you know. We had a memorial for him, but, you know, no proper send-off. But they rejected him. And he just came and, you know, accepted us, and we was his family. He ain't had no family other than us. The only one he was really, really close to in his family, as he told me, was his brother Bobby. And I met Bobby. Their honorable name was Kennedy. His name was John Michael Kennedy, and Bobby's name was Robert Kennedy. I don't know if he had a middle initial, but the Irish usually give middle initials in their family. And he suffered because of the Kennedy's name.
If Mecca did this.